Hello everyone, I'm Rich Lamont. Welcome back to the channel. This is your first time here, welcome. So, hope you guys are having a great day. This is part 2 of the Greenwell salmon fly. If you missed part 1, you should head back and check that one out first. Get yourself caught up and you can kind of see how we got to where we're at. In this video we're going to cover the rest of the fly. That's the underwing, the wing, the sides, cheeks, topping, and horns. So, in the last video we left off, we had just done the pintail throat. For the underwing, it is white-tipped turkey. So when you're working with white-tipped turkey and you're putting on an underwing, you want to make sure that you have a nice platform set up here. Otherwise, when you go to tie it in, if you've got a lump between your hackle and your tie-in point, you're going to wind up with your wing kind of popping up, and you wind up with a lot of space between the body of the fly and the underwing, and we want to try to avoid that. The other thing, when you're dealing with white-tipped turkey, what makes it so difficult to obtain good white-tipped turkey is if you go like this, and you can see, hang on, let me find a damaged feather. Let's see. Bear with me here for a moment. Alright, this is a really bad example. I can't use this feather at all. It's not really a white tip either. A lot of this is the tips are really beat up. Even out here towards the sides, you know, these are all broken off and they're all uneven, and that just makes for really poor tying. Good white tip, even on this one you can see it's got a couple of little nicks. That can be kind of worked with, but good white tip turkey has a nice solid black here, a nice solid line between the black and the white, and these white tips should primarily be usable. They should all have nice edges, kind of like the ones that I'm going to be using today. I kind of had to hunt around through here to find these. But I'm going to use this section right here, and you can see this section right here is in really good shape. I am going to have to sacrifice a little bit of the black for brown, unfortunately. It's going to be very close, but I think a little bit of brown might wind up on the fly right here, and I mean that's all right with me, I guess. So for this, we're going to select out. Use our bobbin here, or bodkin rather, and we're going to pick less than that, I think. I only have a count number on these. Cut that out. Let's measure it up. Let's see. I think that'll look nicely. That'll look good. Alright, so now we need to find some white tip that looks the same on the other side. Alright, so here we've got front and back. So that actually worked out really, really well, taking it from two separate feathers. I just happened to have the right amount of barring. I don't know that I could do that again. I don't think I've got enough turkey to do that again. Alright, so now I'm just kind of messing with them a little bit, trying to make sure those tips are lined up nicely. And I want this underwing to extend out just over the top of that jungle cocktail veiling. Hold on, I'm just readjusting that rear side. Giving it a little bit more of a point to it. Okay. So now we want to make sure that we've got a, like I said, a nice solid flat spot here. There's a little bit of this pintail up here that I think I want to pull out of the way. Just it felt like it was going to be in my way, trying to mount that underwing. Having a nice smooth spot right here is necessary. No. Alright, so when mounting this, I'm going to line it up so it's right up over the top of that tail veiling. I like how the tail veiling kind of blends right into it. So I'll bring that over here. Sure length is good on both. Some people like to wet this, put a little saliva right there. I typically don't. It's just my own. I have my own way of doing it, I guess. So we'll just do a loose wrap over it. And just like with the married wing, you're going to keep your left hand still and not let it move at all. Don't let it slide, don't let it roll. Hold it as still as you can. And then with this hand, you can make your adjustments to the butt ends. As you tie these in. Put a little bit of pressure on it. Make a wrap. And that should be tied in. It does seem to want to pop up a little bit. Once we put the main wing on, that'll bring it down the rest of the way. We can also pull some of this hackle out of the way as well. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm tying these in. You always want to make sure they stay on the top of the fly. And you want to make sure that right here, at the tie-in point, they are as centered as possible. And you also want to make sure that they are as pinched together as possible. When you go to tie in the main wing later, well, just a minute actually, the main wing can slip around it and wind up going down both sides of the hook, in which case that winds up spreading your wing out and creating somewhat of a disastrous situation. I want this to sit a little bit better. So I'm just going to take that off, gently set it aside. I'm just heating up my wax. I'm going to do a light waxing of the thread here. Just helping fold the hackle around the side of the hook here. Okay, we'll take our underwing, we'll try this again. Okay, again, so I'm lining it up where I want it in the back. It's coming right off of that tail veiling. I'm lining right up beautifully with that tail. Just barely touching the tail. Once you're comfortable with how the tail is setting, move back up front and pinch this as tight as you can. Keep your fingers nice and tight and don't let it move. Don't let anything slide. Don't let it spin. And just make your adjustments. One thread wrap, pull it back. Put a little tension on it and another thread wrap. If it rolls, just pull it back. And I'm satisfied with that. That looks good. In this case here, I am going to put a small drop of Sally Hansen's just to hold that in place so nothing slips or moves or slides when I go to put on the main wing. Okay, I'll let that set and get back with you in a moment. Alright, so I'm back again, and we've got another same set of wings, only I put ham gold in where all the golden pheasant was. Unfortunately that happens. You mess with your feathers enough and set a wing a few too many times, and you know, those kinds of feathers don't hold up to it well. So it's best to just swap it out. Then I'll save those other pieces for some mixed wings or something in the future. Alright, so we're going to line our tips up again. Hold everything in place. Alright, first initial wrap. Just help crease those a little bit. Second wrap. Same deal, just let the bobbin do the work. Let the bobbin hang and kind of find its little groove there in the feathers. Starting to add a little bit of pressure now. A little more. Alright, now we'll let up and see where we are. If I didn't know any better, I'd say that sits better than it did before. Slight fold on the back side. Alright. That was that last grouping underneath on the bottom that fell and collapsed under. Let's try to do that again and keep it a little bit flared out. I'd really like to not have to rebuild these wings again. That same slip, fold it up under. There we go. All right. Now we've got that. Looking at one spot right here. Where our sides are going to get mounted. And make sure that that spot there is rather smooth. Lower, please. Okay. Now we're going to get a little bit of this. Once again, we'll let that soak in, let that harden, and I'll be back to finish her up. Okay. That's had enough time to dry. I'm just going to come up here and a little at a time just take away all that scrap. These little butt ends, we can cut that off later when we go to make the head. Okay, so the next step is the jungle cock. There's two jungle cock sides on this, one on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and select out the jungle cock from the cape. These will be from the longer parts of the cape. Let's see. That'll do nicely. And we'll see if we can find another one. Pretty much on the opposite side from where we got that one. There we go. Those came from right in here. So the longer ones that you want, the farther up the cape you're going to want to get. So when buying a cape, if you can find something that's got some really nice, larger, longer feathers up here with good eyes on it, that's a good cape to try to grab. Those are hard to find. Alright. So this next step here, we want the jungle cock to ride a little bit on the low side. We don't want it all the way up here on the wing, but we don't want it covering the body either. So you want it to sit just about here. I'm thinking about making it about to the butt, but not quite. Maybe the very, very tip of it will reach the butt. I think I like that idea. So to prep this then, I'll take the fuzzy stuff off, but then just trim these last couple. And also, you see how that feather curves inward a little bit. You can give that a little bit of a outward bend. That'll keep that stem away from the fly a little bit, and it'll push it out. I don't like the crack in that nail. I'm going to pick a different feather. I have a bin that these all go into that I pull from for other flies. So the ones that I don't wind up using, they do get used, just I don't just toss them. So I'm trying to find one, but there we go. Let's see. This one's a little bit bigger. This one will be the opposite side, actually. Yeah, I like that better. That's going to go on the opposite side. This is sort of the harder part, is these capes are not always even on both sides. Sometimes a bird's right side is not equal to the bird's left side, and you'll have some feathers on the right side that are damaged, and then none on the left side that are damaged. So here we are. That one's a little better. Looks like this one's got a crack in it as well, but they all seem to be that way on this cape, unfortunately. I'm just trimming these off like we were doing, like I showed you. That's the one. And then the other side, you can always look right down the top of the hook. You can always kind of tell where to line up the next feather. See if you can see what I'm talking about. If you look right down, well, in the light you can see the yellow from the jungle cock on this side, so then you can match it up with the jungle cock on this side. Alright. Next we've got our wood duck and teal. You remember the teal slips that I had initially said about putting in the wing. Unfortunately, with a fly this size. Alright, the next step is the sides. For these, in Price Tannett's book, he calls for narrow strips of pintail and barred summer duck. Pintail is, again, it's a much smaller bird, so having strips of that for this is going to be a little bit difficult. So I'm going to sub in some green-winged teal, which is just a bit longer, as you can see. So now to prepare the feathers, you cut the lower part off, which is like this scraggly fuzzy part, and you find this part in the feather that's the most consistent, and you peel that away. You peel away that, and you keep all this nice consistent stuff, and cut off that lower part. Excuse me. So after you cut that lower part off, we'll come up here to this, the opposite side where it's kind of thinner. It's hard to see the fly, but and we'll peel this away from the stem, leaving just that. Now this calls for a narrow strip, so we will go ahead and pull out probably only use about that much. And then we'll do the same for the opposite side. I've already stripped the feather, and we're just going to clip the amount that we need. Okay, and now for the wood duck, it's the same procedure. You pull off the fuzzier lower part, and then strip away that one side. I'm actually going to, I want to use what's up in here a little bit more, so I'm going to pull away just a little more of this. And then I'll just take a narrow strip off of that, which I'm doing about like this. Doesn't need to be much. You can put as much as or as little as you want. Your interpretation of narrow strip is completely up to you. Alright, so now you want to find some barring that's similar to the one we just cut. So we'll move just a little bit up into the feather, and I'm just going to take away a couple of those fibers. And now we should be right into about what we need for our little wood duck sides. So we'll just measure up with the other one about how much we need, and you can do that with just the stem. Take the stem of the new one, take the stem of the one you've already cut, and you can kind of set them side by side here like that. Come on now. Just like that. And then cut this one, and that's how you'll have them even. We're approaching dinner time again in the Lamont household. It's kind of a common time for me to be tying. So disregard any beeps and other noises you may hear. Alright, so we've got our wood duck slips, and when you're looking at your wood duck slips, you want to have the one with the angle that matches the tail. The left side for the wood duck is going to be the near side. And we'll take that and we're going to bend the rackus end up a bit. And what that will do, that's going to help give you more of a designated point at this end. And when we've done that, we can take our teal and line the two up and get their tips together. And once those tips are lined up, you should be able to get them to marry together like this. It doesn't take much, just kind of put them together and they'll kind of do their thing. They are a very, very delicate kind of feather though, so they can come apart rather easily. Now, before tying those in, I'm going to go ahead and snip off the remainder of these jungle cock feathers. Just get those out of the way. Okay. I actually kind of feel like these might be too thick. Just too thick. So I'm going to trim them just a little bit here. Probably the equivalent to, that's 3 fibers that I'm removing. 3 from the wood duck, and hopefully 2 or 3 from teal. That would be 3 from the teal. Straighten that one out a bit and get this married back up. And again, we're just lining those tips up. And these guys should want to marry relatively easily. There we go. Now we can go ahead and lay this on here. Just one gentle wrap. Let's see how that works. You can make all the adjustments with the main wing soon, but that right there, yep, I love that. That looks great. Okay, so now we'll set up the other side the same way. Just take away a little bit of that teal, like I did on the near side. And then we'll go ahead and we'll take this and line up just the same way we did with the jungle cock. Get these lined up. And I just use the thread there to basically pull it down to the tie-in spot very gently. Again, I'm not putting any pressure on it yet. I'm just letting the bobbin hang. You can look right down the fly. Looks pretty darn even. Until I just did that. Oops. Let's try that again. And that's why I always talk about that second wrap for the far side. That's why it's needed. So that doesn't happen. Not a terrible big deal, but you try to spin your bobbin, that's what happens. You end up untying what you just tied in. Okay, the next step is our roof, which is bronze mallard, and again it's pretty much the same process. And get up into the feather right to about where we want to use it. And for the roof we want to be up in here. There's some that are crisscrossed. We'd like to be right into through here for the roof. So we'll cut this away. And then strip away this opposite side. And there's a lot of feather on here for the bronze mallard and for using the roof, for making a roof rather. Getting into here is probably the best part for it. Anyway, between here and here. When you start getting up into here, it starts becoming a little bit stiffer. This is a larger feather, so it'll actually be relatively good up into probably in here. But once you get past here, you're going to find that making that curve to follow the rest of the body is going to be difficult. So your bronze mallard, your best bronze mallard, is this first inch or so, or inch and a half of the feather stem. Bronze mallard roofs are typically a little on the thicker side. That can vary from tire to tire. Some guys like them thicker, some guys like them a little bit thinner. But this pattern actually specifically calls for a thinner strip of bronze mallard. So I'm just going to prep this other feather. So get out the part that we want, or that I want, I should say. Okay. So I've got my strips. And they're a little not the same size. That's about right, I think. I'm just getting a thicker piece just to take a look and compare. This one's slightly thicker. I think I'm going to go with that. Or not. There's a piece of the feather was I'm not having a good time with this feather at all. Alright, sorry about that. Where was I? These I'm going to try to tie on one at a time here, being thinner strips. Second thought, let me trim these out of the way. Alright, so adding a roof, I'm thinking I want to have it about the same width as each of the other ones. The wood duck and the teal. So I've got these strips here. Let's see if we can get them to play nice tonight. In the middle. This side doesn't take as good. Let's just try that one more time. That looks more promising. That's better. And if you can get these to separate. I think I'm happy with that. Alright, next is our toppings. What we've all been waiting for. I'm digging that. So I'm just going to change the tie-in point here. I've got the tie-in point bent already. I'll just re-bend it. Do away with these. And I'm just making little adjustments with my tweezers. Trying to get that bracket down to the tie-in point where I need it. And there we are. So now what we'll do is we've got the shape we want. We've got our tie-in point. Now you can take your scissors and trim away those. And trim away the rest of these here along the stem where you're going to tie in. These are going to help sturdy the topping as you tie it in. And it's not a guarantee, but it should help prevent your topping from rolling a little bit. Another thing that helps too is grab yourself a pair of flat-nosed pliers, and you can take those and you can help that to make your crease at your tie-in point. But you can also use it to flatten out the stem right there. Just be careful if you use one of these. With their edges, they sometimes will cut these. They'll actually like cut the topping. Okay, I'm happy with that. And the last step is, of course, the macaw horns. Now, because of the color, I thought about using like a blue-green, but that green doesn't really go with it. If this was Kelson's version, which I do plan to do, maybe I'll use that instead of just the blue macaw. That's a long left. Okay, so just like with the others, we're just pulling one strip from the side of the macaw feather. So we'll pull one from the right, and then one from the left. I'm taking the left from a different feather altogether. Now we're going to take these. I like my horn. I'm not a fan of the bug antenna horns that go up over the top. I kind of like my horns to come right through and just about hug the roof. And then meet and crisscross right about over the bend of the hook. That's the kind of my favorite style for them. Maybe I can curve them a little bit. Just run it along your fingernail. Kind of like a ribbon. And I don't want to mess with that. Going well enough as it is, no sense in messing with it. Well, and this one we'll just line that one up. You could do the back side one first, you can do the front side one first. You can do them both at the same time and actually wind up with less thread wraps possibly. That'd save you getting your head set up so that way you get a smaller head. As you see here, the horn's getting kicked out right there. So, listen, with these, you can just take these and, like I was saying, curl it with your finger a little bit. And then tie it in, and that curl will actually curl right around the body. It'll curl right around these sides there if it needs to. And then you just curl the other one like so. Just the same. Now I've got the first one tied in with one wrap, So now you can back wrap a little bit, catch that other one, and now you have both of them in the same wrap. Now we can go ahead and remove the tag ends. I highly suggest actually a little bit of Sally Henson's or head cement or something, just to hold that topping and those horns in place, because you're going to take a razor blade to this front end here in a minute, and we're going to razor this down and create our head. So I'm going to let that set up. I'm going to go eat some dinner, and I'll be back with you guys to finish this fly up. Alright, so that's had a moment to dry here. I've had my dinner. Now I'll grab a fresh razor blade. First, I'm going to cut this claw horn off just a little bit. Make sure those feathers are nice and sturdy. And then just very carefully, using your razor blade, cut down through. You gotta be careful, don't cut through your gut. I'm just shaping this a little bit. Now I'm just going to get my cauterizer. And just kind of clean up the rest. Alright. Now I'm going to take my wax and I'm actually going to just take my wax ball and heat it up. Just in one spot, enough to melt a little bit of the wax so we can apply some to the thread. You don't want huge clumps, but definitely do want to get a good healthy bit on there. We'll do this a couple of times. And come across the front. And I'm going to just create a little spot in the front with some wax. using the wax on the thread. And then I'm going to take the cauterizer, and I'm not going to touch the thread. I'm going to get close enough and get it warm enough to melt the wax that we just applied. Not the conventional way of doing it. There's a way of doing it, and it does work. It works well for me. So why not share that? I just use my fingernail to just smooth out this wax a little bit. I know this process takes a little bit longer than some of the other methods, but this way kind of ensures that I get a nice rounded front on my head. Okay, and at this point, you can snip away your thread. And I'm going to get some Solare Black. And then very gently add a light coat. After you add a couple of 3 coats or so, you'll start to develop that really nice hard shell head. And each coat will be a little bit thicker. Each coat will look a little bit more round and give it that nice shape. No, 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 no. As long as you don't have any wicking like I just did. It's my fault. I should have used Salmon clear first. Boy, that is awful. Wicking into the gut. Good way to prevent that is to add the Salmon clear first, let that dry completely, and then you can add the black, because then the clear will harden and the black won't be able to wick in. Well, I believe this is all the time we've got for today. And here we have the finished fly. This is the Greenwell fly from Price Tannet's How to Dress Salmon Flies. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video as much as I did. This was a heck of a lot of fun to tie. It was a little challenging at times, but I really enjoyed tying this fly for you guys, so I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did enjoy the video, go ahead and hit that like button. Leave a thumbs up. That lets me know that I'm doing a good job, that you enjoyed the content, and I keep creating the same stuff. Or, you know, if you have any ideas for upcoming flies, I do have a list going now. I've had a few recommendations, and I got some pretty cool stuff coming up. So keep your post notifications on, and you guys will get to see what I've got coming up here shortly. If you got any friends or family, anyone that's interested, send them over to the channel. Have them check it out. I'm sure there's something they find interesting. I've got a couple of new hooks that I want to try out, especially this one that's it's a Polynesian bone hook, and I'll be tying a fly in hand on that one. Keep your post notifications on. That's going to be a great one. Until next time, everyone, I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful night, and happy tying. Take care.